Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain and welcome back. Now, today I want to talk about something that we've talked about before, but not in the same way. And that is the idea of cheating or infidelity. Now, we've touched on this a few different times in a few different places over the course of all the videos that are on the channel. But there's one area that is involved in this that's very rarely properly discussed. And that is the situation where you've got a person who is in a relationship. It's a healthy relationship. Nothing is going wrong. There is nothing negative happening. There's the sex is great. They have a great time together. They're not bored of each other. You know, they're very well adjusted and all that kind of thing. And yet still one of them, male or female part of the couple, will still cheat. And it's a tough thing for people to get their heads around, because if something has gone wrong, i.e. the negative situation where it feels really crappy to be cheated on, or the fallout from cheating is genuinely and generally quite negative, you know, friend groups being split down the middle, people being at each other's throats over it, you know, it is hard to imagine how something that's otherwise completely fine, very happy, very fruitful, how all of that's going to then be different. You know, how could that then move on to something that's so negative? And it's a tough thing to get the head around, but for the most part, it comes down to a slight disconnect in the way that we perceive relationships, and the kind of issues that we see turning into this kind of cheating in kind of and that kind of infidelity based set of behaviors. Now, most people are going to go, right, well, if they've cheated, then something has to have gone wrong, because they were in a relationship, and it has to be something that's in that relationship that has then prompted them to move kind of outside of that relationship. And this is usually the case, quite often the case, but not always the case. And there are four kind of factors that come in, you know, more generally, for when someone is in a very happy relationship, in a good relationship, in one that's fruitful and so on, that then they step outside of for one reason or another. Now, the first one is one that we've touched on before, and that is the kind of what if. You know, if you've got a limited number of choices, then your what ifs are going to be more limited, and so as a result you're not going to be as unsatisfied with the eventual choice you make. But then the more choices you have, the more overwhelmed you become, and even if you make a choice, because there are so many other options, you're going to be considering those what ifs for so much longer. So when it comes to the good relationship that then has one or other, both male or female, it can be either, going off and cheating, one of the factors that can be quite pronounced in that is just that there are an awful lot of what ifs left over. If you've had someone who's maybe been through a string of relationships, but it's only ever been one at a time, and then they hit one and it's better than all the others, then they're probably not going to have a lot of what ifs, because there's not going to be a lot of competition over that individual. Whilst if they've been through multiple relationships where they've had numerous partners, or times in their life where there have been so much more competition over them in one way or another, then, you know, it opens up those options a little more for the potential for a what if later down the line. And when that what if comes up, then some people will act on it. They want to see what that what if would be if they had made the other choice. Now, obviously, there are people who have only had that string of individual kind of isolated relationships, one after the other, as it were, or something to that extent. And so as a result, they might not have as much of a what if, but then they are presented with something new or different that they could have made a choice towards. And so as a result, they still make that choice to go and cheat outside of their comfortable and happy and fruitful environment. But at least in my experience, it seems to be much more of a case of when there is a lot more competition and a lot more fighting over a person, that then they have those what ifs left over in their head, and there's more of a chance to make those choices. Now, the way to kind of tackle all of these, I'll go over at the end, because it's one answer to basically every single one of these four things. So I'll get to that in a minute. But this, I feel, the what ifs thing is one of the most pervasive elements, because it's one of the ones that everyone has. You know, it's one of these things that you don't know what that other life you would have lived would have been. And so, especially if that was very alluring, if it was a very close called thing in terms of the choice that you made, then maybe just given the wrong situation at the wrong time, it's something that will draw you away from what you cherish. And that's something to be aware of. Now, the next one is that at times when we're in a relationship, we lock away certain feelings, certain emotions, or they are emotions that came from a previous version of ourselves that we weren't happy with. You know, oh, I used to be so much more unhappy and aggressive and blah blah blah, but I got over that and now I'm in a good place. Right, but that doesn't mean that those inclinations towards those feelings have necessarily gone anywhere. And so if you've kind of driven away those emotions, they might come back, and if they come back at the wrong moment, then that's how, you know, there's going to be a moment of acting out, and that could be acting out against your best interests in regards to your relationship. Alternatively, you could experience a completely new feeling, a new emotion that you've never encountered before to the extent or in the way that you have in this new situation that has arisen. And you want to pursue it because it's new, because it's different, it's something that's energizing in a new way. And as a result, it's going to draw you again away from the path that you've already laid out for yourself. And, you know, this is tough, because especially when one of the things that I saw a lot amongst my younger friends through like the end of school and into kind of college and out the end of college as people moved on through university and other bits and pieces and into jobs, it was you'd have them running into these new situations, and it would be they would experience an emotion that they maybe had already had, but it would be in a new way, and so it would feel different. And as a result, they'd act on it. And only afterwards would they realise it was the same emotion, the same feeling that they had been having all along, but just in this new situation, it was the situation that had dressed it up, and they had made choices as a result of that new set dressing that led them down a path towards destruction. Or at the very least, towards pain and heartache and problems later on. Now, the next one is self-exploration, because, you know, if you're going through a situation that you're kind of happy with, but then, you know, outside, you know, you've built up your own constraints in that situation. You know, I'm only with this person. I run through my routine every day. I see them at these times every day. We do these things together kind of every week. All of those then build up into potentially a lack of variety. It locks you down into this version of yourself that maybe you didn't even come up with kind of cognitively yourself. You didn't decide on it. And so as a result, when something else new happens, it can be an exploration. It adds new variety. And this isn't to say that necessarily they're seeking variety in another person. They're not necessarily looking for better sex or different interests or anything like that. It's a case of they're looking for differences in themselves to feel unburdened, to escape and explore and grow from experiences that they don't think, or at the very least, they don't feel they're going to encounter in their own normal situation. And, that can be taxing for everybody, because it means that person is going to, even if they're not kind of cheating in the most blatant of ways, that further exploration is probably going to be much more time consuming than a fling here, fling there that might be far more discreet. It's going to be something that draws that person away more long term, which is firstly probably going to just be more obvious, but also secondly is going to cause things to erode much faster. And there are lots of ups and downs and specifics to the couple in question, as it were, when it comes to things like infidelity. But it's something that, when things erode faster, that rate of erosion, it kind of crushes things so much more quickly than it would otherwise. And then the last one, and this is the one that kind of makes me go, yeah, okay, I see this a lot and have seen this a lot in a lot more men than women, to be fair, but it happens for both. And that is the idea of the thrill of the hunt. And that is the whole attraction plus obstacles equals excitement. It's that conflict that puts you into your stretch zone, that has you energized. And so as a result, kind of the nature of pursuing someone outside of a thing that you've already built for yourself, there are going to be obstacles, there are going to be hardships, there are going to be things in your way between what you want, what you are attracted to, and getting it. And so as a result, the kind of thrill of the hunt is that excitement that kind of draws you along with it. And like this, I've seen this is probably the most prevalent of all of these 4 points that I've mentioned, because this one is just, guy wants girl, even though having great time with girlfriend, chases, ruins everything. Girl wants guy, even with boyfriend, ruins boyfriend's life, goes with guy, or at the very least ruins boyfriend's night, goes with the other guy, guy doesn't turn out to be everything she wants, ends up alone and miserable for a while. It's these almost cliched stories that we see in media and that we hear time and time and time again, and it all stems from this one last point. So how do we address this? How do we address these 4 points? And I've said this before and I'll say it now, it's through communication. If you've got a situation where you are feeling new things, where you are feeling differently, then it's probably best to talk to your partner about it, especially if you've got a good and healthy relationship. If you are feeling drawn away because there's that element of excitement that you feel is maybe missing, then that's something to, again, impart to your partner. If you're looking for further self-exploration, if you're looking for a greater level of freedom and being unburdened and all of those kind of things that you don't feel you're getting within your kind of scheduled and standard relationship, then again, talk about it. If you have all of these thoughts about what if this and what if that, again, talk about it. Because imagine if you went to your partner and said, I've got this thing in my head, it's a what if. What if I had made this choice instead of this choice? Well, in which case then maybe you guys can come up with a way to turn that into a fun activity for both of you so that you can get what you need. If the thrill of the hunt is a thing that you are missing out on and that you are drawn towards, then possibly there is a way to turn that into a game of chase, a tag, something like that. Not like in the most literal playground kind of terms, but in the kind of terms that give you that new, renewed thrill of chasing after the person that you're already in a relationship with. In terms of self-exploration, maybe that's a journey that the two of you can take together so that you get what you want and they get what they want, as well as both growing as people. And in terms of new emotions and new feelings, then again, talking them out is probably a better way to process them, compare, work together, accommodate, and kind of develop and grow and strengthen that relationship, rather than just going outside it and having it all collapse and crumble. Now, it can be tough. Sometimes these things will sneak up on you, but this is where it's just a point of keeping in mind what you're feeling, monitoring yourself, keeping yourself in check, setting yourself your rules and your goals, your boundaries, and making sure that you use those to get where you want to go. That way, even if you're surprised by something, then hopefully, because you've outlined what you want and how you want to get it, it will provide you with those moments of pause to take on board what you're feeling, what you're seeing, what's causing it, but then also to just file it aside for a moment and take it back to your partner that in this scenario you're already in a healthy relationship with, and you can bring it to them to discuss and expand on with them as opposed to apart from them. Now, I love to hear your stories, guys. Most of my the stuff that I'm drawing from for this has either been me as a coach from the outside looking in, where people have come to talk to me about their relationships, or when it comes to friends of mine who have ruined their relationships, done silly things and whatever else, purely because they've not paid attention, not communicated, and they've just followed whatever feeling it was that was drawing them towards infidelity, as opposed to kind of sticking to whatever they had agreed with their partner. So, I'd love if you've got more stories of this, maybe from a more personal perspective, that you'd be willing to share. Then it'd be interesting to discuss the fallout of that, see how all of these different factors added up. Are there any other things that you would add to the list in regards to what caused you to do it? I'd be fascinated to hear. But otherwise, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the video later. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video or found it interesting, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video later. Take care.